Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
As you've heard a few times this evening, this Shabbat is referred to as Shabbat Shuva, the Shabbat of return. It is the Shabbat between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It is one of the two most important Shabbatot of the Jewish calendar year, this and Shabbat HaGadol, which precedes Pesach, Passover. Those of you who have been around for a while know that I tell you this every year because it is true. In the days of old, this Shabbat sermon would be 3 hours long. This one and Shabbat HaGadol. But the reason is you got no other sermon any other Friday night or Saturday of the year, but you did on these two specific Shabbatot because there were lots of instructions to go around. So I hope you've made very late dinner reservations. Because, yes, I know, it's not even funny anymore because I do tell the same joke every year. But this is one of the reasons that we actually do not speak ourselves, meaning clergy, on Shabbat Shuva. It's been our tradition now for 20 years that we invite a member from the congregation who is going to share his or her, in this case, his own wisdom, his own journey, his own sense of understanding of his life as he navigates this holy day period. We are privileged to have as our speaker Arnie Salkin, who's been a longtime member of our congregation. He is important, but I think what's more important is his wife Debbie and his daughter Rebecca. Rebecca has grown up in our religious school, has been a stalwart here for so many years, so they are indeed part of our congregational fabric. Some people like to also remind everyone that Arnie's brother is Rabbi Jeff Salkin. That also doesn't mean anything to me because to me the important Salkins are the ones who sit here each and every Friday night or as much as they come. So it is our distinct privilege to bring up this year's Shabbat Shuva speaker, Mr. Arnie Salkin.
Why is this night different from all other nights? Tonight is an homage to my late mother and the story of how and why I am standing before you this evening. I am a proud third-generation Reformed Jew on my mother's side of the family. My mother was always very proud that she had her confirmation in 1938. She always felt that Reformed Judaism recognized this as a more relevant rite of passage than a bar mitzvah. Many of you are familiar with the various streams of Judaism, including Babaver, Satmar, Belz, Chabad, as well as Reform, Conservative, and Orthodox. Until 1969, we were part of one of the larger and silent streams known as the parking lot Jews. For all I know, there are even members of the parking lot Jews even here in Essex County. We attended synagogue for the high holidays, and my parents never left the parking lot when my brother and I went to religious school. The high holidays were interesting in our congregation before 1969 because they were held in the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Union Hall in Melville on Long Island, where I grew up. Instead of Jewish symbols at the front of our makeshift sanctuary, we had a union logo and an electric bolt or lightning bolt. Not exactly a warm, inviting Jewish setting for an elementary school child. There were exceptions for not being parking lot Jews, such as the 1967 Six-Day War. My parents went to our synagogue as they were deeply committed to Israel. I remember them coming home from the temple with a 12-inch record of Abba Eben, which I still have in my collection. Some of you may even have it in your record collections as well. As you know, and Rabbi Matt just mentioned this, I have an older brother who is now a retired Reform rabbi. My parents didn't see the need to send him to Hebrew school, so he only attended religious school. My parents expected him to have a confirmation rather than a bar mitzvah when many teenagers end their Jewish education. I doubt they would have allowed that. He essentially had his bar mitzvah at mine when he had an aliyah. As I said, all this pertains to the Salkin family Judaism before 1969. What changed? I was now old enough to go to overnight summer camp. My father's insurance broker suggested a camp in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. It turned out to be a significant shift, transition, and transformation for our family. The full name of the camp is the Joseph Eisner Camp for Living Judaism. And that's living Judaism is what we did every day and every way. I still remember being told on that first night in the dining hall that I couldn't eat before the motzi. I had no idea what a motzi was, but I waited. Within a few days, I knew it. It took a little bit longer to master the Birkat Hamazon. On the first visiting day, my parents realized that the parking lot of the synagogue that we belonged to in our hometown was no longer meeting our needs. My parents went synagogue shopping on Friday nights for the rest of the summer. My parents decided on a new synagogue in Wantagh, New York, from Old Bethpage, New York, 9 miles away. As others who have a Long Island connection can attest, that is a cultural chasm. My mother went all in as a member. She modeled the behavior she wanted to see in her children. She worked outside of the home as a school district speech and hearing specialist. She arranged her schedule so that I could attend midweek Hebrew school until we met other families for carpool. The student choir, she drove me even though I was a few minutes late. However, the significant change was that the entire family would enter the building every week for Shabbat services. But why am I here tonight? When I approached Rabbi Matt, I mentioned I wanted to speak. I was hesitant based on the speakers of the last few years. I don't have a story about overcoming a personal difficulty or setback, or do I? Tonight is the 40th yahrzeit of my mother's passing. Maybe it's irony or my mother's ensuring that her family attends Shabbat Shuva services even after her death. Let me explain. When we were younger, all of us, including my father, would comment about attending Shabbat Shuva services, always with the same logic. We were just there for Rosh Hashanah, and we'll be back for Yom Kippur. My mother's response was always the same. It's still Shabbat, and not an ordinary Shabbat. It's the Sabbath of return, and we must return. I believe that my mother did not choose the day to end her suffering from cancer. Over a year of chemotherapy, radiation, and other treatments that I can't remember. Tonight, I'm fulfilling my mother's goal to never miss Shabbat Shuva. About overcoming a personal setback, the closest I come is that I lost my mother in my 20s. And still to this day, I know there are things which I wish I could have shared with her. She missed many milestones: my marriage, the only granddaughter in the family, whom she would have spoiled to no end. In this week's Torah portion, there are 5 key components as Moses reflects on his life of 120 years and his impending death as the Israelites approach the promised land, which he will not enter. The 5 themes are covenant and obedience, love and gratitude, consequences of choice, blessing for the tribes, and a hope for the future. Throughout my life, my parents modeled these 5 components to both my brother and me. In our spiritual life, we were nomads until we found our promised land in a new congregation. The covenant was always important, as there was never a question about our faith. Our home was filled with both love and gratitude. I believe my parents realized that a consequence of their original choice of synagogue needed to be changed, resulting in finding a new tribe. Thus, my parents gave their children a new hope and a different future. One thing my mother, as a career educator, and my father, a later-in-life educator, would be happy to learn is something that we have done here at TBJ to benefit our religious school educators, who are the unsung heroes of our community. As a former teacher here, I know how hard our teachers work, and in many ways, they are underappreciated. This past summer, TBJ awarded the first Salkin Family Scholar to Olivia Leone, learning about the Holocaust by visiting 4 countries through New Jersey's Commission on Holocaust Education. This endowment will enable a member of our Religious Education Center to receive a grant to study and bring back additional knowledge to their classroom, as well as share it with their colleagues, making their knowledge a shared benefit to the TBJ community. Just as my parents, and especially my mother, modeled the behavior, especially the Jewish behavior, she wanted to pass on to her children, I am hopeful that even during this season of reflection, with my personal flaws, I can model the behavior in my family, both by example and philanthropically, by supporting organizations that are near and dear to me and my family and my community. Gamar Chatima Tova, may you be signed and sealed in the book of life.
We continue with the Aleinu on page 282, and I invite